first episode of the Armchair Philosophy Podcast.
Episode.
The first episode.
Are you serious?
First episode.
One and only.
I thought you knew what you were doing.
I do not know what I'm doing. Listen, everybody. Welcome to our little corner of the internet. We're trying to spark up a philosophical conversation here. Joining me today is on my left,
Rousseau.
On his left,
Troilus.
And on his left,
Solomon.
And I am Alessandro. We will be taking you into our minds, which should be a very short trip, given the brevity of it. Today we're going to be talking about something that we promised that we were going to be talking about. Let's be honest, it's an off issue, but I think it's an issue worth noting. It's aliens. We're going to be talking about aliens today, and we're not going to be talking about aliens in the sense of do they exist, do they not exist. An alien came into my room once,
or like historical channel,
or History Channel. We are definitely not. We're definitely not on that level. We're definitely not on that level. We think, however, that aliens, should they exist or not, would prove somewhat problematic for our philosophical ideas. We think that they would jumble things up, as it were. And that's something that we're...
revolutionize the world.
They would revolutionize the world.
For better or worse.
For better or for worse. And we're here to try to take you through at least our thoughts. Obviously, unfortunately, this will not be a live podcast because we don't have any viewers. We don't have any fans. We're starting out, so...
Because Alessandro needs to bleep out all my swearing.
Yeah, we do. There's a lot of bleeps. Please don't swear. Because you know what happens when you swear, the tags...
I'm not going to swear!
Hashtag.
No, the tagging will be insane that I have to do. Anyway, listen. So, tagging aside and swearing aside.
I just have imaginative cursing.
Swearing aside,
I totally.
Oh my god. Alright, listen, we need to get back on aliens. We need to get back on track, aliens. Like I said, we will not be discussing whether or not aliens really do exist. We are going to be seeing what aliens do to our philosophical ideas and theories that we have so far. The next podcast, though, will be live. We are trying very hard to make that happen. We want your feedback during the podcast, so get involved in the next ones. But for right now, we'll start off. And I have this question to ask everybody here on this square table that should be round. If aliens showed up today, what would change? What would change on Earth, apart from maybe massive amounts of hysteria?
Well, that is a possibility. Matt, I don't even want to begin with mass hysteria. Saul, off mic, you had some interesting points to share. Why don't you start?
Well, I would say that it would probably cause issues. Historically, when a more advanced civilization has visited not as advanced civilization, there seems to be things like colonialism that happens, or exploitation, and I don't know about you guys, but I do not want to be exploited by aliens for labor or any other devious things that they have in mind.
But why would you assume that they would have something devious in mind?
Well, historically, that's what we've seen even on Earth. So I'm just going off assumptions based off the past.
Right, but that's only on Earth, right? What happens... here's something interesting. What happens if these aliens show up and they don't know what colonialism is?
Well, I think that brings me a good point. How does it... the alien, or how would the aliens know what deviancy even means? If you look at it, there are two possible options when we have aliens. There could be, two possible options that I can think of.
That's why they're called options.
More feedback from our listeners on this would be wonderful. But I can see two immediate options. We have aliens that are like us, sapients, that are so curious that they've taken to space. They've progressed in science to the point where they can go into the great beyond, or aliens that have left their world not because they're sapient, but because it depends on their survival. Perhaps hive mind sort of alien that is capable to somehow take to the great black beyond only out of necessity and no other reason.
What about aliens that just exist out there? For the sake of existing,
a planetless alien.
But those aliens that may exist out there aren't the aliens that are visiting us. They're the aliens that are tromping around in their own primordial stew,
right?
And they're not quite advanced yet. So point being,
something like maybe us,
our
life form.
But to tie it back to deviancy, the only aliens that would possibly know the consequences of their actions and even have a realm of morals or ethics would be ones that consciously took to space, that went out on a scientific exploration and have come to Earth to prod and probe and try and discern information by running experiments on us. The others, on the other hand, would be much more vicious. They'd simply be here to take the resources they need to survive, and I think ultimately what we have is a dichotomy of the alien that is here to learn and the alien that is here to take.
So, like, maybe the movie not Pandora. Is it Pandora?
No,
Avatar, yeah. So something like that.
Which
Where
Pandora is the
the planet.
Right.
I'm thinking of the radio show, I guess, because I tune into music all the time. But
well, I mean, so we're assuming either we get aliens that want to learn, so that's, I would say, human trait, the wanting to learn,
Definitely
search for knowledge,
trait, which is a flaw in its own right.
Well, it could very well be a flaw, or aliens that want to dominate, which is also another human trait.
But haven't in the past historically people have been, dominating other people in the names of science and the names of learning, right?
Is it? I thought it was the other way around. I thought that people justified dominance because of science.
No, they've justified dominance in the name of economics, and they've gone in with science as an afterthought. They said, "Well, we're going to be here. We're going to be taking all these resources. We might as well learn about it." That's how you have the entire science of forestry, for example. People say, "Hey, let's cut down all these logs so we can build a bunch of houses," and they say, "Wait a second, all these forests are disappearing. We need to figure out a way to do this right."
Something's going on. Who's taking these forests?
But
which one of you is it?
I think that's a flawed mentality of thinking, because not all man or civilizations have done that. There have been other ones where you've seen, like the Aztecs, that they dominated nature, but they also were caretakers of it, and their civilization flourished and thrived
he's got a point.
until a foreign entity came in and then wiped them out.
And even the Aztecs, themselves, they were, I think even, maybe I'm wrong, Mayans I'm not quite sure, but the Aztecs, I think, were definitely dominating people. They went around their area. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
So, it's not a one or the other sort of thing, I suppose.
It's not, but there's different ways of approaching the situation.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we're assuming, though, that these aliens show up here, and they either, by wanting to know stuff, and by wanting, or by wanting to dominate, they have to have some level of intelligence.
Right.
A pretty good one. So, now I've heard something along the lines of Neil deGrasse Tyson once saying, if aliens do visit us, we better run simply because they're going to be so smart, because space travel is so difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. But what happens if these aliens... What happens if the aliens that visit us are the other way around? What happens if we are the dominant ones? Not in the sense of, genetically dominant, or in the sense of we've got more technology, because, if they're spacefarers, then obviously we're beat on that one.
Yeah.
But what happens if they, for some reason, become the underling, and we
District
are
9 complex.
District 9, exactly. What happens if District 9 really actually happens, and instead of that one guy biting off the other guy's arm, what happened? But District 9 puts it in a place where those aliens obviously were going to be able to.
It's also a metaphor for apartheid,
right? So what I'm trying to say is, do we have to put a limit on our own actions with these aliens? Do we show ethical bonds with these aliens?
Do we show sympathy?
Do we show sympathy? Do we show empathy for anything that happens to them?
I think we would have to show at least empathy, only because we would first off just be blown away that they were here in a vessel.
I heard that groan. That groan is not...
Sounds like a groan.
Sounds like a disgruntled groan.
Let me finish. I think first off we would share at least some form of respect for them initially, simply because they were technologically more advanced. If, once we got to know these aliens and we realized, we said, hey, there's these aliens, but there's some really dumb... mother frackers?
Dumb people is the other way to put it.
Oh, they're not people, they're aliens.
Well, dumb aliens then. Dumb beings.
Humanoids?
They could even be humanoids.
Dumb sapiens.
Dumb sapiens. Fair enough.
And they have all this awesome technology. It would be a lot easier if we, just learned how to decipher their language and then just, knocked them off and went tromping around the galaxy on our own,
Right, but they have one real specific advantage over us. That they know exactly where we are.
Yeah,
They know exactly where we are. We could lull them into a full sense of security, though.
we could.
Yeah, and I think that if you tried to pull that stunt, that would be like our demise right
Yeah,
there.
that's
Yeah, I
the
think
end
so.
Yeah,
of the
Blouses.
human world and the
Blouses.
civilization.
That's,
as we
blouses.
know
That's
it.
the first. I would like to just say that's the first Dave Chappelle reference of this podcast, and there will be many more to come. And would be, as Saul would say, quote, blouses.
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 I'm lost.
That's all right. We'll explain it to you later. All right. Anyway. So, I mean, honestly, we don't have any protocol for treating aliens. We don't. There's
Not that we're aware of.
not that we're aware of. I mean, oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure that
Not that's
there's.
public.
Yeah, that's
I
public.
think I heard sometime on the freaking Science Net channel or whatever that there was some universal like document out there that says if you contact aliens or if aliens contact us or you, then you need to notify first notify everybody, then notify the news and the government and something or other. There's something.
That's great. There's a whole checklist of like
There
bureaucracies,
actually
but-
is.
But first, notice the IRS, and then notify this guy, and then notify the IMO and the IMA and the IMC and all these other UN bodies.
But not the World
WTO.
WHO. Look, I mean,
WHO?
here's the WHO. I think the main question is this. Ethically speaking, we say we have an inclination to be sympathetic with these aliens. I think. Mainly because we would have to ask ourselves, maybe are we putting ourselves in this position at one point or another? Are we headed along the same lines if perhaps following Tavis's example, they're people who have run away from their homeland because they needed to, not necessarily out of choice? A lot of people, I think, would probably say no, I think, unfortunately.
No to what?
No to being sympathetic. No to being, to showing ethical equality, I think.
I feel
No, I'm sorry. I totally agree. I think we would ultimately make a very stupid move and try to exploit them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think so. Is that more of a comment on the way that we treat others, or is that a comment on the way that we think
I
ourselves?
think that's more of a pessimistic realization on humanity.
Yeah.
Everyone's just a realist, I think.
Everyone is just so even neo-libs would become realists when aliens show up.
In that example, I think so.
That would be an amazing turn of events if neo-libs and critical theorists become realists the moment that aliens show up. The moment that a real threat shows up.
Let's justify our realism here, though, because we are kind of
that's
like
true.
pessimists.
I'm sorry.
Why would we be exploitive of these aliens? I think it would almost tie back into our animal nature, the sort of a thrill of dominance, a necessity to outdo,
Right.
to overcome. Quite frankly, I think the showing of aliens, and this brings in another interesting concept, would galvanize humanity to such an extraordinary degree. Overnight, I mean, if we had an intergalactic visitor whose intentions we were unaware of, all the nukes in the world would be pointed to them.
All of them? Are you sure about that?
The North Koreans?
Even North Koreans? Okay. I mean, I think there might be some people might be using it as an excuse to do something terrible. Is what I'm trying to get at.
My point is,
I'm serious.
My point is, I think there would be a lot of talks between the Chinese, the Russians, the Brazilians, everywhere, all over the world, saying, "Look,
Brazil's got nukes now.
no, Brazil, India, Pakistan,
India,
right?
Pakistan. If aliens are what we need,
No,
I'm not gonna murder
point being, all of a sudden, we would have no real excuse to be fighting with each other. We'd say, hey, look, like, we can get back to this later, but, like, right now, we have a giant effing spaceship hovering
right, or a
over
series
us,
of spaceships.
and we need to kind of get our stuff
Get together. Yeah. See, Tavis. See, you did it. You did it, Tavis. I'm proud of you. No swear words. and all that.
I'm going to unleash a storm of cursing once this microphone is up.
Well, I mean, I'll get my umbrella ready, but I think, yeah, I mean, so aliens show up. Does that mean that Earth is all on one side? Does that mean states become obsolete?
Well, I mean, I guess historically we have to look at, like I said, history. Has it happened in the past? Have people bonded together when there's been a common enemy that they've all had to confront?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right. However, I mean, if we can go back and see that, yeah, that did happen, and we did work together and collaborate with one another to get something done, then we can make the assertion that perhaps humanity as a whole would go, bring each other together and work against one common problem or issue. But if there's instances where that hasn't been the case, and they've just wiped each other out.
Well, I mean, here's historically what I'm thinking of
that even if that happens, you still have to deal with the fact that it's a very forced or contrived form of unity. And underlying subsets of it, like once you deal with the common problem, then who unites? I mean, there will still be, like, who's going to lead, like, this new world or this organization, right? There's going to be power struggles within there that people at the mass level, they're not going to be able to see or understand. And the leaders who are uniting the people will be showing the face on media or TV screens that this is what needs to happen, but behind the scenes, there's going to be all this work that you don't know what's going to happen. Like, if it could fall apart in the middle, it could fall apart 100 years later on down the line because of that forced, contrived nature.
Yeah, I mean, there's even the possibility it falls off at the ground level. I mean, let's say we go back to the idea India and Pakistan get on the same level for the first time in forever. Okay.
You got to throw Bangladesh too.
Throw everybody. Throw everybody. But let's say you take an X and a Y and a water and oil that wouldn't mix otherwise. Okay. What happens to the people of those places? Do the people of those places still keep their prejudices regardless of what's going on? Because especially like Russell meant, you don't see what's going on all the time. Maybe they don't understand the complexity of the problem, and maybe they just don't see the scale of the problem, right? Maybe they don't even hear about it. There are some pretty remote places on Earth, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So that
Swat Valley, one of them.
Kashmir province.
Yeah, so if you do have an alien showing up on top of Siberia, what is somebody, what's an Aboriginal in Australia going to say about it? You know what I mean? And so, not necessarily the Aborigines wouldn't know, but just, I mean, obviously, if you're not within any contact for people who would otherwise tell you, or the actual thing itself, you're not going to know what's going on.
Right, and going back to Russell's example of the Aztecs, we can see that ultimately that their enemies and the smaller, tribes around them worked against them.
They did. They definitely did.
With the colonial power.
And that's because they had a reason to. Remember, they had a reason. They had past prejudices to do that.
No. The actual reason was because it was foretold in a book or something sacred to those people that a white holy man, a spirit, was going to come, and that would be sort of like the savior. And so when they saw the
Cortez
European,
was white enough.
He was white enough to be because everyone there was brown. Everyone there was brown. And so when they saw the white man and he came on a horse, and they never had horses in the New World, and he came on a ship, just like we're talking about a spaceship coming down upon us, they were stunned, they were shocked, and they seized an opportunity that, I mean, in the end might have helped them collapse the Aztec Empire, but later on crushed their own people.
That's true. I mean, well, they definitely didn't know what the Spanish had in store for them.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we can say the same about aliens. We really wouldn't know what they have in store for us. Let's face it; it's going to take a serious effort between both the aliens and us to even find a way to communicate.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they've already tried to communicate with us, and through different forms.
You mean like microwaves?
No, I mean, I feel like they've already hit Earth,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And been here.
I'm pretty, microwave technology is like alien technology. Like we didn't come up with it. Was on
my pizza pocket's coming from aliens.
Pizza pocket is coming from aliens. That's Roswell. Roswell gave us Bluetooth. It gave us microwaves, and it gave us laser shows.
Well, that's just the movie Transformers, right?
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite
Lots of
plausible.
movie references.
A lot of movie. We don't actually know anything about philosophy, but we
sure do love movies.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's assume that they tried to contact us. Okay, who's in charge? Who responds? Who says something?
Putin, because he knows the most judo.
Putin.
That's the most interesting man in the world, right?
The what?
That's the most
Putin.
interesting.
That's the most definitely
terrifying man in the world.
Most terrifying man. Okay, so I think we need to right here, right now. The Armchair Philosophy Podcast needs to take a stand, and we need to come up with a crack team of people that we need to send up to these aliens.
Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman has to go as the global ambassador.
He could possibly be an alien.
He could possibly be. I think those are just piercing.
Be the Harlem Galaxy Trotter.
The Harlem Galaxy Trotter.
Right.
All right, so we got Rodman. We got Putin because he knows judo. What we're doing is we're making the Avengers here. Then I think we send Neil deGrasse Tyson again.
No, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson would
No. I say we keep him in case things go wrong.
Oh, in case he's our secret weapon.
He's our secret weapon.
Lock him in a bunker.
We just showed the aliens a tape between him and Jon Stewart.
That's a good question. Who are the greatest diplomats to deal with aliens? I'd put my vote in for Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
That
might be a serious contention. Actually,
I think that would just lead to our own demise.
No,
send Colbert, Jon Stewart.
You got to be careful, Tavis, because I mean, what happens is we're going from Dennis Rodman and Putin to a serious consideration, which would be to send an actual diplomat up.
Yeah. Oh God forbid we do that.
God forbid we actually get serious on this podcast. Yeah, but I mean, it is a tough question. I mean, we don't have a Rosetta Stone. Right?
No.
We don't have French imperial forces in Egypt to figure this out for us. So, I mean, what does this... Actually, hold on. Speaking of language, what does this do for is it philosophy of language?
Philosophy of language.
What does that do for them?
I think Wittgenstein would just say, as usual, it's arbitrary.
It's arbitrary. He probably would. I mean, what else do you say? So you have somebody that's worked their entire lives to figure out exactly what words mean to us, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody else comes along, a completely different path of figuring out communication. We're assuming they have communication, right?
Right.
It's very difficult to put something together.
If they have verbal, written communication, exactly. That's assuming.
So let's keep it easy on ourselves. Yeah. They have written and audio communication. They can even have video. They have things that are comprehensible by
Skype.
Well, they have a great version of Skype, and it doesn't sound like crap. Yeah. Yeah, so let's assume they have that, right?
Uh-huh.
What does that say? I mean, about the concept of language? That it's intergalactic? Do we just expand it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how the concepts of language are restricted solely to Earth. I don't.
I mean, they're not. They're definitely. I mean,
language isn't even restricted to speech itself. It's restricted to body language, to cues, to there's different forms and ways.
But I mean, there's a difference between
Morse code is.
I'm looking at it this way, right? Even Morse code. I'm looking at it, so we're talking about a mathematical form of language, and we're talking about codes and stuff like that. I would say that those reside within their own sort of areas, in the sense that math existed well before our language existed. I would say. Okay, Plato's heaven and all that.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Sure. I'm trying to keep it easy for the first podcast. So.
We'll debate this one later.
We'll debate this one. This is for episode 4.
Fair enough.
But when we do get to language, we get to the development of the alphabet, which is our own doing. That's our own thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I say
we took it from the Romans.
No. I mean, like humanity in itself.
Okay. Humanity.
But to be honest, the Romans sort of took it from the Phoenicians. But
no, then the Phoenicians first.
They took it from the Sumers.
The Sumerians, and it was originally
Babylon.
imposed by a northern horse tribe that came down. But I mean, we don't.
So anyway, this podcast
goes on and on.
It goes on and on. Is what we're trying to say. So to the Indo-Europeans,
there's an interesting theory posited out there that the written language was established in order to subjugate women under a male dominant society.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, that happened anyway.
That happened anyway.
If you want to check it out, read the Alphabet versus the Goddess.
Alphabet versus... Do you know by who? So we can say to our
Leonard
reviewers.
Schlein.
Leonard
Schlein.
Schlein. All right. Fantastic. Don't read into it. All right, but here's back to my point. You know, language, the way that we use language at least, the alphabet is our own doing.
Yeah.
That's our own domain. So what I'm thinking is,
unless it was posited here by aliens.
Oh my God! Don't be like the guys on the History Channel.
Think about it though for a second. I mean, Abyssinia, the kingdom of Abyssinia, like one of the first languages, like which is completely structurally different than us, and it's glyphic, and like looks like when you look at some of the movies when
hieroglyphics in Egypt.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It could
possibly
came from
parked the
something
pyramids.
Made the pyramids and the sphinxes.
The pyramids. People might not know this. The pyramids are actually wheel clamps for alien spaceships that the Egyptians put on them because they were they were parking in the wrong space.
Right.
Everybody knows that.
Well, without video proof, that cannot be.
Without video proof,
the Sphinx was deterrence.
The Sphinx was deterrence. Oh my God! It's a cat! Everybody run away! That's why we need to fix the Sphinx.
No, I'm sorry. I come from the belief that well,
I think
not
I've
the
lost my
belief,
language point here.
the I would dare to aim to prove that language has developed out of economics. The necessity to track and record
Yeah, I can believe that.
substances, and not just that. Once you start tracking and recording substances and managing a population, be it from infrastructure to resources, all of a sudden you're going to need to start communicating. Say, hey, Bongo, get wood.
You're just assuming that his name is Bongo. That's racist.
That's racist.
His name could be Tom.
Right.
A good Christian name.
Or a Greek name, Constantinopoulos.
Constantinopolis. I'm sorry if we offend any Greek viewers, but not over there. Oh my God, here we go. All right. Well,
Free country, no money though.
it's a free country. Well, that's why it's
That's
free.
the problem.
That's why it's free. $3.99.
Language is an issue. We get it. Language is an issue to understand in terms of what to make of this new language, I guess. So it wouldn't change much on Earth in terms of our own understanding of
No.
language. I don't think that.
I don't think so at all. I think we just boil it down to mathematics.
But here's the big one, and I think this is a good final topic for us today. What does this say? What do aliens do to our sense of humanity? What does it say about us? What changes about our own perspective about us?
Well, finally, we can answer the question: we are not alone.
That is true. That is definitely true. It seems like
I'm
an easy
not
answer,
sure
but
if
it's
any of our listeners have been bent up about that, but you'd get that satisfaction.
yeah, you definitely get that. I mean, you get the answer. I don't know if it's a satisfaction at that point. For different people, it might be.
Yeah, but then you have to question, like, is it just us?
Is it just us? I mean, is it just us too? Yeah.
That would be the question from then on. Is it just us?
Yeah, I mean, what does it do for somebody who's religious and
Well,
might get caught up on that?
I think from the religion side, we have really varying reactions. I think from the fundamental side, fundamentalists would be screwed. There would be a lot of
religious fundamentalists.
religious fundamentalists
conservatives?
would have a lot to explain.
Yeah, not necessarily. I would put
No, it's very
fundamentalists
easy
on
to
the other side.
explain. There's one God. He created everything. And
No,
they are-
I'm talking about the religious fundamentalists that say Earth was created 6,000 plus years ago.
Oh, in that sense, yeah.
Okay.
Adam and Eve were the first people only. That humanity, so on and so forth. That I think there would be a really staggering moment where they say, "Oh crap."
Yeah.
I think religious moderates would definitely say, like, yeah, okay, sweet. Aliens, God is so powerful.
God is so bad.
That is,
That is
is dope. I know a lot of people down at Mars Hill Church that would be freaking out. They'd be like, Jesus is so great. Did he save you too?
I think avid listeners will now figure out where this podcast is coming from. Thank you for that. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, you have it's a tricky tightrope to walk, but you could definitely come out and say, either God made this happen,
Yeah.
Right.
or you say simply that we're no longer. I mean, does it mean that we're no longer as special as we once thought we were? Are we egoistic enough to ignore it?
Quite frankly, I hate to pull the maturity card on this, but I think there's a degree of people that are religious to the point where they think, there is a big guy in the sky who made humanity, and that's fantastic. And then there's also the abstract religious that say, God is an indescribable point of infinity, and, it's an undefinable power, source from which, all things were created.
Right.
I think the people that take that stance, the more intangible stance, aren't going to have a problem. For people that take the guy in the sky hovering above the fifth orbit of 315b somewhere outside
315.
somewhere outside the intergalactic spiral,
Right.
just a dude hanging out who's all powerful and mighty.
You like the guy from Mario Kart who picks you up and you fall
Yeah,
off the track?
exactly. Yeah.
That bastard.
I think that's really going to cause a lot of people to really redefine how they believe in their faith. I don't think we're going to see people turning into atheists by the dozen. I'm sure that would happen, or people would definitely have to re-examine their faiths. But
maybe
at
instead
the
of
same time, faith is just faith. So some people would just continue to have faith. Still.
Oh, definitely.
Or if not, cling to it more. I feel like because there's going to be different types of human reactions. There'll be the intellectuals that'll be like, "Oh, I'm curious
Yeah.
and I want to learn." there'll be like the people that are power hungry, and they're like,
I want to exploit
and dominate, right? And then there'll be the people that are power hungry, but they still want to learn out of a mutually like assured benefit, instead of a mutually assured destruction that could happen if you try to exploit them for. That would happen, actually, not could.
I think also there might just be the stubborn who don't want to interact at all.
There's those.
The ones that dig underground.
No, absolutely. I think there would be. I think we would also see a huge Earthist movement, wherein an Earthist xenophobic movement, wherein and possibly stemming out of religious fervor, saying, "Oh my God, this is a test from God. We must vanquish these Cretans."
We must vanquish these Cretans.
No offense to further Greek listeners, but
that's a good plan.
But I think what's going to be interesting, I think one thing that we could possibly learn from this Earthist movement, this sort of pan-human, entrenchment into embracing all that is humanity. I think we're going to have a really interesting global discussion on what it means to be a human being from this group. So in our own right, we might have a very interesting discussion from these might be a xenophobic group of imbeciles that are just saying, oh my God, aliens, get rid of them, they're a menace to society. But I think in doing so, they would have to cohese together, and from this cohesion, we would cohese.
Well, yeah. If somebody out there knows, please leave in the comments what this word should actually mean.
I'm sorry. I've started going to sea and I've just lost all my grammar.
Yar.
All right. So, in order to have any weight behind an Earthist movement, a movement wherein mankind has to identify what it means to be man in order to reject the alien, we're going to have a global unification of these Earthists, from which there will be a very intriguing discussion on what it means to be a human being. I think I already reiterated that, but I got all tied up in my grammar.
Right. Well, there's also other benefits that we might have from seeing. I mean, if they're outside of our galaxy, we could look at things like time travel,
Yeah.
And whether or not that actually is plausible. And I think that, for me, at least, that'd be one of the more amazing things to discover and find out about.
Do we ask them? Do we actually ask them if they came from a different time period
or galaxy?
Or galaxy? I mean,
they have to be traveling at light speeds.
Oh my God! Yeah, you're right. Man, they could be the best Formula One drivers ever. All those G-forces that they would have to do. Yeah. Right. Well, look. First, I would just like to say that I think while we have begun to scratch the surface, obviously, of this topic, we are reaching our conclusion here. We're reaching the end of times. And I'm looking at Tavis' notebook, and I'm so sorry that I didn't even get to say any of it.
I know. Well, I got a little.
Well, I'll tell you what. Actually, we can go ahead and put some stuff up maybe later attached to the... Oh my God, there's more! We could go ahead and put some of this up, maybe in the comments and see what people have to say for further listening and reading. Obviously, we have limited time here, and... We definitely appreciate your patience here.
I think that's blouses for this conversation.
I think that's blouses. That's the second time we heard blouses, and I think that's where we're gonna end. So. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the first episode.
And thank you.
Don't ruin it.
I'm just saying thank you for accepting the fact that we didn't listen to you and
That's right. That's true. We definitely...
Next time we'll be more organized and prepared.
Well, no, next time we'll have the ability to do so.
And please share these conversations with your friends. As you could hear from us, we're all tripping over ourselves with the amount of thoughts generated by this prompt. So please, discuss it amongst yourselves. This is a wide topic, and we'd love to hear your responses.
Always in the comments.
You have with your friends
always
and families.
In the comments, please.
Yeah,
exactly. Tell us whether we're doing a good job, or tell us whether we don't know what we're talking about, because that's literally as good as regular comments.
What are you talking about? We always know what we're talking about.
No, but look, we're putting this on the internet. I'm sure we'll find nice people on the internet.
Of course.
It's full of nice people.
Those are the first people you always find on the internet.
Always.
If the internet was a person,
this podcast with a potato.
If the internet was a person, I wouldn't have married my daughter.
If the internet was a place, it'd be a terrible place.
It would be a terrible.
According to Dave Chappelle.
That's 3, and that's it. We're done. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to the first episode of the Armchair Philosophy Podcast. We will see you back here on not April 1st, but let me check my calendar because I don't know. Eventually.
You cannot harness the space-time continuum to dates.
We can, actually. April 8th. So, April 8th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will be back. The next topic will be, and it will be about...
Women?
No.
Aesthetics?
No. Knowledge.
That thing we presume to have.
The thing we presume to have, and I'll leave it at that. All right.
Man, I'm gonna have to read.
I'm gonna go read. All his aliens notes have just gone down.
Aliens was easy. Now I'm gonna have to bone up on actual philosophy.
But you see, that's what a lead-in is for. We make ourselves uncomfortable.
There we go.
Well, thank you everybody. Thank you everybody for listening. I hope you've stuck around, and this is us going out. So for Russo, Troilus, and Saul. Yay! Thank you! Thank you, everybody! Armchair Philosophy Podcast. We're out.